And time now is 7 p.m., and I would like to start the meetings. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded for publication on the Council's website. Apologies for absence. I've received apologies from Laura Hall. Are there any further apologies? Okay, we'll move on, yeah. Item 2. Items of urgent business. No items of urgent business have been received. Thank you. Item 3, minutes. I move that the minutes of the meeting held on the 4th September 2025, as outlined in the agenda, are approved as a correct record. Are there any comments?
Chair, you weren't at the meeting, so I don't believe that you can approve them. So it needs to be
No, I just read it. Are there any comments on the
it
accuracy of the meeting?
It needs to be approved and, yeah, but it needs to be approved and seconded by somebody who was here.
Okay. Okay. You approve it, yeah? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I was in attendance at the meeting, but I'm not on the minutes, so if I could just have my name popped on them. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. The minutes are approved. Item 4, declaration of interest. Does anyone have a declaration of interest to make? Thank you. We'll move on. Yeah. Item 5, Thurrock Young Voices. You can go to the pages 13 to 28 of the agenda. Can I ask Joanne Kemp and Adrian Simpin to present the report, please?
Hi, I'm Joanne Kemp. This is Young Voices report, so they'll be presenting that themselves.
All right. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I'm James McIntosh. I'm the Care Leaver Ambassador with Thurrock Council. I'm here today to represent Young Voices as a member and as the ambassador, and to present the report highlights from the year. So first of all, we have the Power of Participation workshops. I've held 2 Power of Partition workshops since last corporate parenting, and the first was on the 1st of September 2025. This was mainly aimed at foster carers. This workshop brought together 8 foster carers and fostering managers, and 3 young people were facilitated for the session. They had the chance to ask us questions directly. We were able to share our own stories about coming into foster care and what life was really like for us in care. The other workshop was for the Think Family service on the 10th of November. 5 young voices facilitated the session and 13 staff came along. We wanted the staff to understand how it is for us when we visit the Oak Tree Centre, and particularly when we have family time there and contact. We are looking forward to continuing our work with the Think Family service. The Children in Care and Care Leaver forums take place on the 3rd Friday of every month. In 2025, we've alternated activities with meetings, and this works well. We're excited about the new youth hub opening in Stanford-le-Hope soon. We'll hold our groups there. On the Being in Care film project. In March 2023, we made the Being in Care film. We decided to update this. So a group of us came together to start planning this. There were 10 care experienced young people there, aged 11 to 19 years old. This was an amazing day with young people sharing their experiences of what it was like to come into care and being interviewed by the communications team in Thurrock. On the 30th of October 2025, we went to Putt Shack in Lakeside for Crazy Golf. We had the chance to meet with the Directors of Children's Social Care, Janet Simon and Tendai Dooley. We chatted about some changes in the service, had some food, and a game of Crazy Golf. 13 young people attended, aged 11 to 19, and 1 care leaver ambassador, that being me. For Care Leaver Month, there was a bonfire night spectacular / cinema night. On the 5th of November, we toasted marshmallows on the bonfire, and then had a treasure hunt in the woods. 18 young people worked together to solve clues, share feedback, and hunt for a golden ticket, which led us to an ultimate surprise, an outdoor cinema experience. Everyone really enjoyed this. For National Care Leavers Month, it was a brilliant and uplifting month of events which brought us together and celebrated our achievements. There were lots on offer to young people across the service. To mark the end of Care Leavers Month, there was a celebration night with music, food and entertainment. 31 young people attended. Our groups met on the 22nd of December. 20 young people attended. We played exciting games of darts, sang together in a private karaoke booth. We had some nice food together. Each of us received a Christmas stocking filled with treats and a cracker. This was a nice time to celebrate as a group. On the 23rd of December, there was a Baby Bunch Meet Santa breakfast. The babies were mesmerised by the twinkling lights, and the parents loved watching their little ones' faces light up when they visited Santa's grotto and received a gift. And on the 25th of December, at the brand new Youth Hub, there was the Christmas Day event. This was attended by 20 young people, came along who otherwise would have been alone on Christmas, and the atmosphere was really good. There was a lot of activities on the day. This was table tennis, pool, basketball, bingo, a raffle, karaoke, and a gaming station. Christmas dinner was prepared by the staff, and every young person received a present. It was a fantastic time. I can take general questions regarding the activities we have completed as a group, and any other questions or suggestions I will take back to the young people and staff members and feedback for the next corporate parenting meeting.
Thank you so much for the presentation. And before we go for questions, I was asked that the officers should introduce themselves to the young ones. Yeah, because some of the young ones, they don't know who you are. If you can introduce yourself to the young ones, the young voices, please. I mean the officers, please. The officers. Yeah.
Elise McQueen, Head of Service of Children Looked After Services. Hello again.
Yeah, hello. Trevor Willis, Head of Service for QA and Safeguarding.
Hi, I'm Tendai Dooley, Director of Children's Social Care and Early Help. I met with the young people earlier on this evening.
I'm Kaylee Pullen. I'm the head teacher of the virtual school.
I'm Tina Russell. I'm Deputy Director for CAMS.
Hello, I'm Sharon Hall. I'm the Interim Deputy Director for Children's Community Services.
Good evening, I'm June Freed and I'm the Designated Lead Nurse for Safeguarding in Mid and South Essex ICB, and lovely to meet you all.
Oh, thank you so much. And we're going to go to the questions, right? Please, have you got any questions to ask? Yeah, from the presentation from the young ones, the young voices.
No questions, thank you.
Councillors, have you got any questions, please?
Thank you, Chair. Do I have actually?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Carry on.
No, I'm really pleased, actually. I think the work you do is absolutely fantastic for the children in care, and actually you're trying to build a community of people that actually do find support in relationships with each other. I think from looking at what you've done over the past year and in the last few months, especially coming up to Christmas and in that lead up, you've actually really done some great events that look fantastic. Just really thinking, I know in your goals for 2026, you've mentioned about launching the new youth hub. Just wondering when there's a date for that particularly. I think that's a really fantastic opportunity.
Thank you for your kind words. We don't have a specific date at the minute. It's hoping to be soon as we can, really.
Thank you, Councillor Kosher. Have any councillors have got more? Okay, Councillor Sisterson, please.
I just want to back up what you said, how encouraging it is to see and how you're creating a community like a family really for yourselves. And it's especially like Christmas Day and stuff, it's really, really nice to read. So yeah, hope you can carry on and gather strength as you go on.
Thank you. Councillor Thurrock, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just want to say congratulations on getting the ambassador job, and to the other two people that are here. It's lovely to see new faces. And thank you to Joanne and the lady next to you. Sorry, I don't know your name. Sorry.
I'm Adriana. I'm Joanne Carly Banks, Manager, Participation and Engagement. Thank you, Officer, as well.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to you two ladies for what you do, because in the past we've said thank you to the young voices, but I don't think you two have ever had thanks. So thank you for everything you do to look after these children and that, help you do for them. And also, hopefully, what you're doing is absolutely brilliant. I say this every time I'm here, but it can grow and get more people in the group and that, and just carry on going from strength to strength, because you're brilliant what you do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other one? Any other person?
Could I just say thank you, because I've been a foster carer. I came to the Power of Participation group, and it was really interesting to hear your points of view. So thank you.
Thank you. So I was only just say just one quick word. So I'm Councillor Vicky Hartstein. I'm the Cabinet Member for Children's Services. So just to say thank you very much for the report as always. Pleasure to see you, and it's lovely to see indeed what you were saying, some new faces. So thank you ever so much for the report, and thank you for all the work. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Vic. I just want to say thank you guys, because I was actually in your Christmas party, and I was there again for the football matches, and it was a good football competition between the young ones and the adults, Well, unfortunately, we, the adults, we won. Well, fortunately, unfortunately, but we won. But that was fun, yeah. Thank you for what you do. We appreciate you guys, yeah. Thank you so much, yeah.
I'm Keely from the virtual school. I'm sorry I can't talk to you and look at you at the same time. I've been coming to these meetings since 2014 when I started my role here in Thurrock, and it's just been amazing to see how much this has grown and the amount of activities that are happening and the involvement that's going on. So I really want to thank you for your fantastic report and for the brilliant work you're doing. And if you do need to come and talk to the virtual school for anything, please let us know.
Thank you so much. You are free to stay, or if you want to leave, you can leave anytime, yeah? No pressure. Thank you so much. Okay. Can we go to recommendations, please? Do I agree on recommendations, please? Okay. Sorry about that. There's no recommendations, right? Please, let's move it. Item 6, children looked after annual health report. Pages 29 to 56 of the agenda. Can I ask to June Freed to present the report, please?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening and hello to Chair and members. So I'll take it that you've all had time to read the report because it came out with the papers and it's been prepared by Mid and South Essex Integrated Care Board, myself as the designated lead nurse, and by Sharon Hall, who's here tonight as the Interim Deputy Director for Children and Young People for Mid and South Essex Community Collaborative. All these long titles, and also by the Interim Assistant Director for NELFT, Michael Smith, who is unable to join us tonight. So as you'll see, the report does provide a high-level overview of how health services are supporting children in care in Thurrock and how our partners are working together across Mid and South Essex to meet our statutory requirements and responsibilities. And the aim is to really provide the corporate parents is here tonight that the assurance about the health arrangements in place for our children in care. And really the three main areas that it brings together and highlights is that the health services for children in care, how they're entitled to those services and how they're being organised and overseen across the wider system. And the progress that's been made to improve initial health assessments, which Sharon will be updating us on tonight. So there's been several key developments in terms of provider and provision for the care for our looked after children, including the introduction of updated national quality standards and how we're going to bring them into practice and ensure that it's aligned across the system. And we really continue and regularly meet together to improve engagement with children and young people. And one of the things that's underway at the moment is the initial health assessment video tool that's being brought together, and it's got the voice of young children there behind it so that children and young people can really understand what an IHA, initial health assessment, might look like or feel like when they come into care, because that's at the very early point of their entry into care, and we want it to be a positive experience at that point for them. So as you'll all understand, the NHS is undergoing significant organisational change within the integrated care boards and within provider services, but partners remain focused on maintaining our statutory responsibilities and improving outcomes and keeping our children in care at the core of the process, and to ensure that as they go through the transition, that the right care is for them at the right time to meet them. I'll hand over to Sharon now, unless there's any questions, but as I said, I'm assuming you've read the papers, but we could have questions at the end.
So moving on to the slide around proposal for new IHA delivery model. I think I was here probably this time last year, and we did a lot of kind of drilling down into IHAs and the reasons for breaches, and explaining to the members at the time then what and how IHAs come into the health service and the process that takes. So what we've been doing over the last 15 months. There's a thing, please do not move the microphone, thank you. So that's why I wasn't touching it. Sorry about that. So I've laid out here the kind of proposals and the work that we've been doing, or we hope to do, around IHAs. This is ongoing work, it's not complete. we're not perfect yet. We've got a long way to go still, but this is about really giving assurance that we are trying to address this problem and trying to improve it. We've worked with the ICB, the providers have worked with the ICB to look at a new delivery model and looking at not just seeing children and young people on time, but also the quality of the contact that we have with them when we actually trying to engage them in a journey through the health service, and often a lot of them have not had much to do with health services when they come into care. Especially some of our unaccompanied children that we see for IHAs. What we're doing at the moment until we've got the new model in place is that we do have some extra funding from the ICB in order to have extra funding for paediatric slots so that we try to reduce the breaches. Whenever I talk about breaches, I do need to flag that, we will never have 100% breaches because, the reason for children not being seen and within 20 days varies. There are several reasons why they're not. One of them, and the main one, is capacity. There are also other reasons, such as obviously the child moves out of Thurrock. They still need an IHA, but then that's not delivered by your local providers. That's delivered by the providers where they're actually placed outside of Thurrock. The other key ones are often around delays in paperwork. That can be at different ends of the services. So that could be in getting paperwork, and that could be in the paperwork then being returned back to social care. There are other reasons for breaches sometimes around the young person not wanting to come. We can't make them come. And at the moment they come to a clinic to have their assessment. So this new model is really trying to kind of address some of those reasons for the breaches. So it will increase the capacity because what we intend to do is use the looked after nurses, the LAC nurses as we call them, within the services in order to engage with the young people as soon as they come into care and start building that relationship from day one. They will then do a lot of the paperwork for and the history gathering for the paediatrician to then see the young person and sign that off. They will also be explaining about the process, and rather than the young person just being given or child being given an appointment, they'll be able to engage with the young person hopefully and explain what will happen to them when they see the paediatrician. And so we're hoping through doing this, obviously we increase capacity, we will reduce the number of did not attend, so was not brought, and we'll also engage the young people, improve the quality of their experience. We have actually also involved a participation worker, and we will be linking in with your children looked after within Thurrock in order to get them involved in some co-production around us developing the new model of service in its delivery and see what actually they want and how they want it as well. So that's what we intend to do there. And on the rest of here, I've just really kind of set out about more detail really about the shorter appointments with a paediatrician and the fact that the capacity will increase. I've also set out a timeline there which we're hoping to deliver on, and but as I said, in the meantime we have been given some extra funding to increase the number of IHA slots until the new model's in place. On the next slide there is some just highlights around some work areas. So one of the things we're doing is around also trying to improve our data collection and make sure that marries up with the data that's presented to yourselves. I know that I was in the Health and Wellbeing Board earlier this week, and Sheila Murphy and I, we couldn't correlate our data, so we need to be able to be looking at the same data when we're talking about the children and young people that we deliver care to in Thurrock. So we're going to do some work behind the scenes on that as far as doing some work around auditing the data that we had against the local authority data, because there's no point in having all this data if it's not the same data we're looking at, and it's saying two different things. So that's some audit work we will be doing over the next few weeks. On here as well, it mentions about the participation lead and linking in with the engaging with the forums. Other services delivered obviously through NELFT within Thurrock are around our 0 to 19 services, children's community health, and also the CAM service, which Tina heads up, and she'll be reporting on that later on. So if we move on to Thurrock Healthy Families, Essex and Kent Children Looked After, in here I've put some of the data that we have for the service for children from Thurrock, seen in Thurrock, since October 24 to September 25. And that demonstrates some of the reasons for breaches, some of them the out of time reasons, and the reasons why some of the cases aren't seen. You will see in some of that between November and April, we actually were doing quite well. It was 100% in most cases. But as I say, there has been dips in that since, and we're trying to improve on that. So the next slide shows for those cases that were overdue, the number of days they were overdue by. And as you can see, 7, 14, 28 and 42, 42% of those seen late were seen later than 28 days. So we're also hoping to bring that down, obviously, with having the extra paediatrician funding in the interim until we get the new model in place. We've also put some data in here on RHAs, so the routine health assessments. And one of the things about incorporating the LAC nurses into the IHAs is that actually it's the LAC nurses that do the RHAs. So that means there's continuity of care and care given, and also hopefully they kind of started to have built up a rapport with children and young people and ready for when they are doing and seeing them for the routine health assessments on an annual basis. Our performance in the routine health assessments is much better, as you will see, and they strive to achieve that. So there's data for under 5s and over 5s. The under 5 routine health assessments are delivered by the health visitors and health visitors, so their performance is good on that as well. The next page, just some feedback from some of our children looked after that we've got feedback from on their experience around their initial health assessments. And then also the other thing that actually happens is obviously every child looked after has a what they call a health review care plan as well, and obviously that's just showing that we've got kind of 100% coverage of all of the children looked after in Thurrock by NELFT's has a care plan in place. The other role of the LAC nurse is when the child looked after is leaving care. They have a care leaver's passport on discharge, and that means that kind of any care needs that they have ongoing, that is clearly set out so they don't have to repeat the story, and that those health needs are passed on to the appropriate services that they'll be continuing or beginning to see. And there's just some recommendations at the end of the report there that, as far as Corporate Parenting Committee, we'd like you to consider. So that's really around receive assurance updates on the working being undertaken, and look at being cited on the opportunity to comment on the new strategy. And Corporate Parent Committee will continue to receive regular updates from NELFT on the health of Thurrock children in care and the services available to them. And that the Corporate Parent Committee will receive updates from NELFT and progress to improve its approach to children looked after, including the impact of the newly appointed named professionals' roles in strengthening clinical leadership and implementation of NELFT's strategy for children looked after within Thurrock. and that health and care and social care teams should continue weekly multi-agency meetings to support compliance with the 20 days IHA framework. And I would also add to that that you support the audit of data and cross-matching of data as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. The questions now is open to the members. Councillor Cockshaw, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Jim, for your reports on the IHAs. I think so many on this committee will share the bugbear. I remember when I was first elected in 22, one of the first meetings I come to was corporate parenting, and it was IHAs. Then it was in 21, I think we were 57% in terms of hitting our target. In 2022, we were in our 30%. I'm seeing that we've now nearly 3 years on, and we're not really seeing much improvement at all. And we feel like we're shuffling the chairs around, constantly saying we're looking at how do we amend this. When I was the cabinet member for health and chaired the Health and Wellbeing Board, I had a request from the ICB and Thurrock partly to lower our standard because we were expecting 85%, and that was deemed to be putting too much pressure on. So it was looked and discussed that would go to the 60 to 70% target. From that meeting in August 2023, now we're hitting 36% still, and I appreciate there may be some there is issues perhaps with paperwork or everything else, but when we're still not really seeing any improvement in that target and what we are expecting, I think it's just very hard for some of this committee to see that we keep asking for work or what can we do to explore that, and that target doesn't actually shift. And in 5 years, it's gone down 20%. So I'm just really be interested to see how this new system works with sharing audit, but I'm just concerned that we've seen no improvement whatsoever.
Can I respond? Is that okay?
Yes, please.
Is that okay? Thank you so much for sharing. And I think that disappointment is shared by everybody here. I think it's shared by the providers, it's shared by the ICB. So it's a shared disappointment, totally. And the new model that we have looked at through the year of 2024, there was a task and finish group to really bed down and look at what the best model is, not just locally, but to look at matching models demographically, because this is a Warrington model that's been used and tried and tested with looking at a population that is similar to Thurrock and similar to Mid and South Essex, because it's also going to sit across a wider area. And that with the hybrid model, they've had positive outcomes. So this is why there was a reinvestment and I guess a mobilisation, which is in the plans of happening at the moment, of a new model, because the old way hasn't worked, isn't working. And I will say this here now, this is an issue across the rest of Essex as well. So I sit in all the corporate parenting meetings across SET, and the same issue is coming up, which is why we've had to then go back and say, this isn't working, we need a new model. So, we're hopeful that this is the model of the future, and that this is a model that will give a better experience for our young children who are entering care, and obviously then have an impact on the compliance rates.
Thank you. Councillor Caution.
Thank you, Chair. No, thank you for that response. I think I'll be interested to see where that is then in a year's time, whether it comes back to corporate parenting or to Health and Wellbeing Board. I think that will be. I'll be interested to see whether or not this works. I am a bit sceptical, but I will remain to see that, and I appreciate just one thing. Just curious, is the target that we're looking for still what was set in 23 at 60 to 70%, or is that the goalpost changed?
Can you respond, officers, please?
Yes, I mean the target that we have on our KPIs is 60, I think it's 67%, but we are going for higher. And if you I mean I haven't got the, but if you look at this chart on some of the dates over the last year, we have been over and above that for Thurrock children seen in Thurrock. I think sometimes one of the things that and I think the audit will bring it out, is that obviously some of your children are placed outside of Thurrock, but the stats that you get to see are for all of your LAC children, or children looked after, and we only see a percentage of them. So I think it's something about also being, I mean, we can only be responsible for the ones that we see, and I think we need to be clearer about that, so you're clear about For the ones that we see in Thurrock, this is the percentage that was seen, and this is the percentage that was seen on time or not on time. But I think what we're doing a little bit at the moment is looking at two different sets of data. You're looking at which is right, because you're responsible, and you look at the data for the whole of the children in Thurrock and also the children from Thurrock that you place outside of Thurrock. You're still responsible for them. But as a health provider, health provider for Thurrock, we're responsible for seeing the ones that stay in Thurrock. So do you see what I mean? We're not looking at the same. I'm not making excuses, but there are discrepancies on the percentage of compliance, because we're not looking at the same figures.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Nod, please. I'll come back to you. Councillor Nod, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the report. Yeah, really, I don't want to sort of cover too much of what's already just been mentioned, but this is my first visit back to corporate parenting for a couple of years, as some of you may remember. And I do remember a couple of years ago, we were drilling down quite hard on the initial health assessments. And, you know, this, like I say, this is my first time back, and it's really disappointing to hear this. I've been unable to attend a couple of meetings that this year already. So actually sort of coming across this now is quite a disappointment, really. And again, I would share Councillor Coxall's view that, would be looking to see an improvement in the near future. And this has gone on way too long, hasn't it, really? And I know we had some pretty heated discussions about this a couple of years ago. So here's looking good for the future, hopefully.
Thank you. Please, what's your name? Tendai, please. Yeah, please. I can see.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to come in and reassure the councillors that in terms of our internal mechanisms within Thurrock Children's Social Care, we've really strengthened how we are monitoring the timescale for that paperwork. So actually in the last 6 months, our performance has been 100% most of the time, but that's because children coming into care are in single digits. So we might have 2, we might have 3. So our paperwork is being completed on time, and the work that we have committed to do is liaise with our health counterparts, so we're really clear on the data that we are reporting. And we need to separate out children who are looked after by this council as opposed to children placed in this local authority by other local authorities. So that's the work we're going to do, so we have concise and clear data that, that can be used to hold us to account.
Thank you. Councillor Spade, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think George is very mellow in terms of expressing his concerns. And certainly Paul's also immediately just made the point, same old that we were talking about 2 years ago. And I've got a significant number of concerns, and not least the recommendation that it sort of makes an assumption that we're going to accept all the platitudes. Corporate Parenting Committee to continue to receive assurance and updates. Well, I'm sorry, I really think you're failing to give us that assurance. It's, you could write that we're getting an assurance, but we're not. If you look at the early part of that report, you talked about the old system and whatever. Well, the old system was we're talking about the early part of 2005. Money was put on the table, a plan was put in place, and while I just accept what was said, maybe there are some sort of improvements coming through. I really don't get a sense that we're seeing it here. I think this report is incredibly confusing. Somebody's got PowerPoint crazy and decided to use every bit of PowerPoint that they can in doing it. But the bottom line here is that we still have a figure, which is that a significant number, a majority. We're just doing 36%, so we're failing our target by half. And we're a third of where we actually really want to be. And I just don't get that we're getting any sense of urgency. As I say, I go back to a plan was put in place. That was in the early part of 2005. 2005. We've now got a timeline in front of us that talks about we're going to start rolling things out in January or maybe February, or possibly seeing the first thing happening in March. You know, we as councillors and we as a council, we have a statutory duty. Everything we do, everything that we're minded to do and everything that we're guided to do is laid down in law. And if we fail to do it, we're slashing important beneficial services in this borough to meet our statutory duties. So that word statutory just keeps repeating and repeating and repeating itself. And yet here, a failure to meet a statutory requirement is repeating and repeating and repeating itself. And I'm not sure that the outside agencies are getting where we're coming from. But some of the book for that surely does have to come from within the council. And I'm really disappointed, and it's in the minutes, where it says at 1.3, concerns were raised regarding delays in the completion of initial health assessments. Considering statutory duties and potential risks associated, it is recommended the matter be escalated for urgent consideration. That was agreed by every member at that meeting. And it was supposed to be passed on to the portfolio holder, and I'm going to ask a question in a minute, for Children's Service and Education in consultation with the Chair and the Director of Children's Integration to refer the matter and get progress timelines, actions for consideration as a matter of urgent business at the next Children's Services Overview and Scrutiny Committee. I don't believe that happened. If it did, I apologise. You know, but we're just pushing it back and we're pushing it back and we're pushing it back. But we don't push back our other statutory duties. And I just got a sense of absolute frustration that, yeah, we have a corporate parenting meeting every so often. Yeah, we'll go a few platitudes. We'll write down that we're going to continue to assure you that everything is going. But the reality is everything isn't going better. We're treading water. So if with the Chair's indulgence, if I might ask Councillor Hartstein as to where, as the portfolio holder, we sit with this matter at this moment in time.
Yes.
Yep, thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Yep, we did indeed. Obviously, I was at that overview and scrutiny meeting where that was discussed. So I took that straight away. I met with senior leaders in children's social care, and I had a discussion with our cabinet members, and we actually decided it was better off going to Health and Wellbeing Board, which is exactly where we took it. So the next Health and Wellbeing Board that I attended after the children's overview and scrutiny, I raised it there as an any other business, as an urgent matter of business. I wanted it put on the Health and Wellbeing Work Plan, and it went yesterday to the Health and Wellbeing Board. What day would you say? No, Tuesday, apologies. It went on Tuesday, so it was, I can categorically reassure you, it was discussed and it's going onwards. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Councillor Hartstein. I'm pleased that that is the case, and I apologise. I've been watching that many meetings that I wasn't at. I haven't actually got quite round to the Health and Wellbeing Board yet, so that's my bad. But I just would like to reiterate that, you know, this is important to us. And we're effectively the mums and dads of these kids. And if it was our own flesh and blood, I think we'd be possibly, you know, raging. And just because they're not our flesh and blood doesn't mean that we shouldn't be equally raging. And I just hope that when we come to the next meeting of this committee, we will really see proper, authenticated, evidenced progress, and we're moving to presented in a really readable, clear fashion so we can make an assessment. And then I'll turn round, if I'm still on the committee at that point in time, and I'll say, thank you, you are giving me assurance. But at this moment in time, as a matter of fact, I am not assured that we're doing everything that we can. But I thank Councillor Hartstein for her efforts. She's clearly on top of it, which is good. I thank you for your efforts. You know, I'm not saying any of this is willful. And you're talking about the problems of paperwork and this and staff and whatever. And our job as a corporate body, as an entity altogether, is to find solutions to problems. So, you know, if you want any help, bring them to us as councillors, and we'll see what we can do, rather than just hear from you once a flood. Thank you. Thank you for your indulgence, Chair.
Oh, thank you, Councillor Speck. Any responses from the officers? Yes.
I'd just like to say that, you know, obviously we take on board the seriousness of this, and although we have a plan in place, maybe we'll need to look at a plan B. Councillor Speck.
Oh, thank you. Councillor Watson, please.
Thank you, Chair. Completely agree with Councillor Spate and Councillor Cockshaw and Councillor Arnold. This has been an ongoing issue now for very much many years. I've raised it, I think, while I've been on corporate parenting, I've raised it consistently about the lack of how our children are not having their health plans. But equally, as I keep saying, it is just that their foster carers are doing this out of their goodwill, that they're taking on children that they do not know if there is an issue that they can help with. So these stats are up to September of last year. It'd be really interesting to see how that has contained up to now on live data, where we are on that. We've also, you're going for a new team. I'm welcomed. I'm a bit where Councillor Spate is, that I'm not reassured right now about how that will progress, because we have been told over and over again. And it'd be really remiss of me not to say that we have been drummed into, and we take full responsibility, councillors, that we are a corporate parent. So we are very much signed up to that, and it would be very remiss if we weren't asking these sort of questions and saying that they're not our children, but you know what? They are as well. So we just need what's best for them. So the team is going to be working over Thurrock and Brentwood, I'm assuming.
The health team are based in Thurrock, yes.
Okay. So at the moment you're talking about, Tende, about we're up to date on everything within here, but that's the current ones that are coming in. How many of the retrospective ones that have been sitting on the backlog, are we up to date on them and they're just new ones we're not up to date with, or are we just not really sure where we are right now on that? And I think the last thing, Chair, before I go, can I have reassurance from Councillor Artisan that this has been brought up on the Health and Wellbeing Board, and it continues to be monitored on the Health and Wellbeing Board, everyone, as it's on a quarterly basis. Can you please ensure that happens? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Watson. Councillor Alika, please.
Thank you, Chair. I want to pick up on the IHA data where it states that the due to assessment brought back to Thurrock as 008 team has no capacity. So I don't understand what 008 team means. I'm trying to find it in the report. I can't find it. So please, could you clarify this?
Yes,
Thank you.
Sorry, it's abbreviation for out of area.
Ask that, please. You just kind of put it in brackets so that we know what it means, because it can be confused with all the abbreviations, please. Thank you.
Yes, point taken.
Thank you. Councillor Hudson, do you still want to ask any questions?
No, thank you. I just wanted to reassure again the committee members that it will be taken to health and wellbeing and will be continued to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, carry on.
I just wanted to ask a question regarding a strengths and difficulties questionnaire. I noticed in your strategic overview for 25-27 that you want to be looking at those scores and incorporating those. Are you already doing that, or do you have a plan in terms of how you're going to acquire those scores?
So it's when a child is referred to our service, the strengths and difficulties questionnaire is usually done by I'm not quite sure who does them in social care. I think it's a social worker.
Foster carers generally do.
Yeah. So it's about making sure that we have access to those, when the child's referred. And I'm sure Tina will mention something about strength and difficulty questionnaires, because obviously with kind of mental health issues as well, if it's flagging something, you want it to go to the right place.
I guess in terms of initial health assessments, that's quite difficult to have an SDQ score at that point, unless it's obtained by the school, if they already know the young person, and if that's collected through, as we do, collected through the personal education plan. So I think maybe there's some work that we need to do in terms of the paperwork that's sent to your department to make sure that if you're requesting SDQ scores that they're on them.
Karen.
I don't want to add to paperwork to slow things down even more, but point taken. I think the other thing to say is obviously when the LAC nurses do the RHAs, the strength and difficulties questionnaire information is usually available, but obviously by that stage.
Thank you. Councillor Thurrock, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Can I just ask a question of the officers? Do you ever get together yourselves, and have a meeting yourselves, a lot of you together, to talk about things? Or is it just at these meetings that these things get discussed? Not being funny in any way at all, but surely if there's something, instead of sending an email, if you had a meeting every 3 months or something even, to discuss these things, it's easier face-to-face in a room, surely. And maybe with the portfolio holder as well, possibly. So.
Tendai can answer the broader question, but I actually meet with health every single week on a Tuesday morning, and we look at the health referrals, the initial health assessments, and we match them to dates and offers, and that happens every single week. And I just want to echo really what Tendai was saying about the referrals in time, that our data runs from the financial year from like April the 1st. Children accommodated from April, our figures were 75%. However, from children accommodated from the end of April, our initial health assessments referrals is over 90%. So there's 4 of 6 months we've had 100%, and then we've had 2 months where we've had 1 child and another month with 2 children where the paperwork's been late. But I just want to give that assurance that that happens.
Thank you. Tendai, please.
Thank you, Chair. Everything that Elise has said is absolutely accurate, but there's also a responsibility for me within this. So I am meeting with my health senior managers counterparts because this is an area we have to get to grips with. I think I agree with everything that's been raised. When children come into our care, it's a huge responsibility, and health is a big aspect of that. So we are meeting and we are talking through this.
Thank you. Councillor Watson, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Elise, and thank you for that answer as well. I've lost my train of thought, so I'll come back in a minute, sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Watson, please.
Hi, can I just ask for just a bit of clarity, if that's okay? So the ICB, as we know, are cutting funding by 50% going forward. And in your business case, they have actually agreed to the delivery of the new model, but you haven't received the investment of that new model. Can you just clarify that the investment for the recruitment is actually ring-fenced and guaranteed to go into next year's funding?
Yes, obviously this report was written 2 months ago, and since then we have received the funding up until the end of the financial year, and then we'll get the new lot of funding from the new financial year, which is April. Yeah, and until the model's in place, that's the funding that's been used for the extra slots, the extra IHA slots to meet demand.
Thank you. Any other questions? Or shall we move to a recommendation? Councillor Thurrock, please.
Yeah, I'll come back now, sorry. So Elise said the 4 out of the last 6 months, 100%. Brilliant, of course. Correct?
No, I didn't say 100% for the last 6 months. I gave you a figure of 4 of the 6 months, so we were 100%. What I said is that the 1st of April, if you look the 1st of April to now, it overall is 75%, but actually from children accommodated towards the end of April, when we stepped up our oversight and vigilance even more, it's over 90%. So children who've come into care towards the end of April, our paperwork referral, initial health assessment, referral paperwork is over 90%.
Okay, thank you for that. So why is this paperwork so confusing? Because it reads as 33% or something, I've forgotten what it was now though, but it sounds like we're around 75 to 90%, something like that. But the paperwork just doesn't show that. And if it's written 2 months ago, why has it not been updated? Maybe it's me, I don't know. So.
I think I'd have to let my health colleagues answer that, but what I can say is that our reporting period is obviously we run from the 1st of April, and the report that my health colleagues have reported on is from October 2024 till September, so it's a different reporting period. And also, our initial health assessment paperwork goes over to our health colleagues for our children, whether they're in borough or out of borough. And so that's what we calculate on, because as you said rightfully, with a corporate parent and whether they live in Thurrock or out of Thurrock, we're responsible to get that paperwork in on time.
Thank you so much, everyone. Can we move to recommendations, please? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 recommendations. Are we agreed to it? Hmm? Read it. Okay, let's start from number 1. The Corporate Parenting Committee to continue to receive assurance and updates on the work being undertaken to improve initial health assessments for Thurrock's children placed in Thurrock or across Mid and South Essex. Do I agree on that? Okay, thank you. The second one, Corporate Parenting Committee will be cited on and provided with an opportunity to comment on the revised South Essex and Thurrock looked after children health strategies 2025 to 2027. Do I agree? Yeah. Okay. The next one is Corporate Parenting Committee will continue to receive regular updates from NELFT on the health of Thurrock children in care and services available to them, including access to specialist services, mental and emotional well-being support, and the impact of service improvements on health outcomes. Do I agree on that? Thank you. The next one is Corporate Parenting Committee will receive updates on NELF's progress in improving its approach to children looked after, including the impact of the newly appointed named professionals' roles in strengthening clinical leadership and the implementation of NELF's strategy for children looked after, including co-production with young people to shape services. Do I agree on that? Thank you. The next one is health and social care teams should continue weekly multi-agency meetings to support compliance with the 20-day IHA statutory timeframes. Do I agree on that? Thank you. Councillor Spade, please.
Thank you, Chair. Would it be possible just to add as an additional recommendation, which just echoes what several of us have said, and Councillor Watson actually very eruditely put it, that we do ask that the Health and Wellbeing Board maintain a very close eye on the situation as discussed during this. I'm sure Democratic Service can find some appropriate words to say that, but just that we have a record saying that we are asking the Health and Wellbeing to keep a weather eye on things.
Do I agree on that? Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, we agree? Thank you. Item 7, please. Our Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services Report for children looked after. You can find that on pages 57 to 70 of the agenda. Can I ask Tina Rossos to present the report, please?
Yes, of course, thank you. So this report sets out our services for child and adolescent mental health services for Southend, Essex and Thurrock to children looked after, which is commissioned by the local authority and the ICBs. This report sets out the specific services for Thurrock children, and it was compiled by our team manager, Dean Raffay, who isn't able to be here tonight, so I'm presenting it on his behalf. It's between the period, the data is between the period of October 2024 and October 2025. And the recommendation will be that we're continue to provide the same type of reports for overall monitoring of the service provided to Thurrock children. So the report just outlines the services that are currently being provided within the team, and as you can see, we had 58 formal referrals received and 58 were accepted by the team in the period of between October 24 and October 25. So every child looked after received a consultation or assessment through the children looked up after social care teams. And if treatment wasn't deemed necessary, advice was provided on alternative sources of support. The guidance included recommendations not only for the child or young person, but also for adults in the wider network in terms of supporting them in the care of the young person. So there's just a graph there showing the referrals. There's 15 young people currently open to us and 43 have been closed. And this just outlines some of the treatment that was provided to those young people whilst they were in service. A total of 36 young people have received direct therapeutic support from the CAMS team, and specifically 4 young people engaged with informed CBT, DBT stabilisation work, 2 received trauma-focused work, 1 received psychodynamic psychotherapy, and additionally 9 young people had direct one-to-one therapeutic work after being referred via a transition of care, the crisis team or the youth justice service. For some young people, CAMS work collaboratively with a wider system around them, which include carers, social care, placement teams, support workers, perinatal services, providing psychoeducation support, supportive sessions and case reflection meetings. We work in a very collaborative way across partners to make sure that we're providing joined up periods of care for the children that we're providing services to. Just on the next page, it just outlines some of the therapeutic modalities that we offer to those young people. I won't read them all out, but they're there for your reference, so you can see the types of interventions that are available and provided and what types of presentations we would be responding to in terms of that. Also, the next chart just shows some other interventions that are offered to children looked after. Education school-based support, so actually going into school and helping the school to understand the child's needs and how they can offer that, maintain stability and engagement for the young person at school, and supporting them around some education support for those young people so that they're able to access school, and obviously working alongside the virtual school in terms of that. Support, so just jumped on a bit, excuse me. Also, we offer some support around transitions, which I'll go into a bit more detail a little bit later in the report. Working with systems around children looked after. As I mentioned, we work with the wider system. It's really important that we engage with foster carers, mentors, and social care teams to make sure that the support that we offer is collaborative and that we've actually got really good communication about the needs of the young person and how they're best supported. 3 children looked after cases involved joint collaborative working between multiple services all at the same time, and offering a system support package. So for some of our young people, we offer intense system support where we have a multi-agency care plan that identifies what support each agency is offering and how that is going to support the child as a collaborative piece of work. 4 young children looked after were transferred during the reporting period, and 3 children were received into Thurrock during that time. Access to specialist services. So obviously as a provider, we've also got specialist services, eating disorder services, learning disability services for children, and the crisis and therapeutic home treatment service. So the children within Thurrock also have access to all those specialist services as well, should they require them. And those specialist services would work in collaboration with our local team, who would have oversight of those children looked after cases to make sure they were getting the right provision. The highest referral months were June and October, and there's no clear indication of why that was. It might have been, you know, after children returned back from school or just before they finished for the summer, the reason why we saw a spike in referrals during those months. We have in all of our CAMS teams, we have a lead practitioner who leads on making sure that our services for children looked after are closely monitored, that they get quick access to the service. We offer assessment of those children within 10 working days, and within 5 days we make sure that the social worker has a report back to give an idea about the care plan for that child. So we really do prioritise those children, and it's the children looked after lead within those teams that has the responsibility to make sure that that is complied with, and also offers direct consultation to social workers and foster carers if required, so that there's a very quick response. And Thurrock team also have a hotline that they can be contacted through their duty worker every day if it's needed to have a consultation, urgent consultation around any child. When we offer that assessment, as Sharon spoke earlier, we also ask to see the SDQ so that we can get a sort of understanding of the child's needs through the SDQ and any historical background. So should they have already had any type of psychological assessment, that we read those, and that forms part of the history of the child that we look at. Sorry, did you want to ask a question? Sorry. Just carry on.
Oh, thank you, Tina. Are you done? You can.
No, I've not finished, but I just.
Okay.
So yeah, just speaking about the priority that's given. Also, transition work, it's really important for us to make sure that children are transitioned to adult services appropriately. So we start a transition process at 17 and a half, and we start talking to adult services about the most appropriate service for that young person and plan for that with the young person. It's really important that the young person is engaged in that whole care plan, and so we understand whether that's the service that they want from adult services. There are some options in terms of IAPT services as well. If children don't have such complex needs that they need to go on to adults, they might go on to access to psychological therapies or the frontline response team or other sort of community services that might support them when they transition from childhood to adulthood, and making sure that they're well supported over that period, because we know that that period is a period that's particularly difficult for them, and we want to make sure that they're well supported and that they're part of that whole process. So there's just a little bit of data there around children that transition during this period as well. As you can see, there's just some data there in terms of how many children we did see within the time frame of 10 days. And as you can see, most of those children were offered, had that first consultation with the social worker, which forms the first part of the assessment, within 1 to 2 days. Our team in Thurrock really sees children very quickly within this cohort. and then 32 of those young people were female, 23 were male, and 3 children were transgender female during that time. Also, we often have children that might be Thurrock children placed by the local authority but placed in other areas of Essex, so they would receive exactly the same priority within our other teams. And during this period, we only had 1 child that was open to our South End team. So there's the children looked after lead would make sure that they were also overseeing that child's care plan as well, to make sure that we had good understanding of that child's pathway. So that's the end of my report. If you've got any questions.
Oh, thank you, Tina. Councillor Speck, please.
Thank you, Tina, for a really clear report. I've got a question, really, but I would like to start by thanking yourself and all the members who work within the mental health teams relating to children. It is incredibly difficult work. I'm personal experience of a situation where we unfortunately ended with the worst possible outcome with a child, and once you've been involved in something like that, you never underestimate how important all of this is. So my first question is, clearly children that are coming through corporate parenting, they are very likely to have been in situations that will have damaged them. It's almost inevitable that there's been trauma or something along the way that brings them in. In terms of a percentage, would you have any idea of, say, if you picked a random 100 kids who've gone through care and a random 100 kids who are in stable home relationships, what is the actual percentage, would you, I'm just the best guess will do, of the amount of more children, and I'm sure it will be more, in the care environment than it is in the home-based environment?
If I'm understanding the question correctly, how many more children do we see within our service?
Yeah, sorry. Basically, if we've got 100 kids coming in and they're in care with us, if we just went out at random and selected 100 kids who are in home-based relationships with loving, caring parents and whatever, how many of those children, on average, I mean, some of them certainly will require mental health help, even though they're within that stable environment. But I imagine that the number of children that come into care, the need for mental health support is substantially higher. I know it's a fairly obvious assumption, but I'd just like to clarify.
It's really hard for me to give a percentage, but I totally agree that, you know, they have got a higher risk because obviously the experiences that they've had, and we know that those experiences have an impact on mental health. So therefore they are at high risk, and that's why we fast track them. We see them within that time frame. We also know that they're at risk of moving very quickly, so we want them to have a good assessment, and then we can, if they moved out of area, we could negotiate their care with another CAMS team. So yeah, they are at higher risk. But also I think for some children looked after, what they want first and foremost is to come into a home that gives them stability and good care, and we can't underestimate the work of our foster carers in terms of doing that. You know, so first and foremost, they provide the most precious job, and we're an addition to that, I think, you know. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, there's no bigger advocate for our friends in fostering. They do a totally amazing job, and it probably goes without saying, but it's something that we should say on a regular basis. The reason for my question really is, and you've answered it, you've got high demand, you've got high need, you've got high intensity. You and all members of the teams associated, they're going to be working in high pressure environments. Time's going to be short. Resources, I'm not sure are going to be there. So the reason I asked the question is to sort of bounce it back to yourselves. Do you feel that you are getting the support in terms of financial commitment to the job that you have to do? Because we should never shave anything off the top of this. It should be professionals estimate what the need is, and we then find a way to make sure that you have all the tools to do your job, because it's too important to fail. It really, if we get anything right at all in Thurrock, it must be looking after our kids and turning them into fantastic adults. So it really is. So I would just say, you know, if there's anything that you think, if you've got any fears about budgetary constraints, and we've got the portfolio healer, I'm sure we'll absolutely support that, because I know how passionate she can be about the welfare of children. So from that point of view, you know, sort of batting the ball back to you. And the reason, part of the reason why I've asked the question is because I'm a little bit concerned, and this is an administrative thing, so democratic services. If you read the end of the report, which is clearly a pro forma, and I've no idea who filled it in, there's a name on the end of it, but I won't embarrass them. It's appalling. There's loads of stuff that's left in there that's just junk that should have been cleared out. It's badly orchestrated. It's whatever. Click this box once and type the job title of the officer who's very... We're not interested in that. It's nothing to do with why we're here tonight. So can we make sure we tidy that up, please, democratic services? But then when I go to the financial implications, aside from all the click this box stuff, it says there are no financial implications. However, any costs associated with this report need to be met from existing resources. Well, it tells a story, but I would like to see within, this is Thurrock Council's side of the bargain, a little bit more detail about finance, about making sure that we have got the money set aside for this important job, and that whoever prepares the financial report says, yeah, if we, you know, we've got a 5% margin where we can afford to go over budget, or this, that, and the other. So we get some more detail, to use that word that was thrown at us earlier. These guys get the assurance that they're not going to be told to put away their biros and not buy any more paper clips because we haven't got any more money. So I just think it's really important we support our officers, particularly in this line of work. So, I mean, you may wish to just comment on if you see any need, but we're here to sometimes hold you to account, but we're also here to help.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your support. Obviously, our services are always under pressure, and if we had more money, you know, we could do more. But I think we really try to prioritise, and our first priority is to make sure we see our young people and we see them as quickly as possible and that they're not waiting too long. And that goes for all the children we see. And we've also got the added benefit of nationally the rollout of mental health support teams, which is beginning to show real benefit in terms of seeing children much earlier in schools. We've also been able to establish some CAMS posts within GP surgeries. Unfortunately, that hasn't grown as quickly as mental health support teams because the funding for GPs hasn't been quite so consistently rolled out, and so some GPs are struggling to be committed to that. But where the money is there, then there's services put in to see children as early as possible, and that's why we really wanted to prioritise children looked after, that if they come into care and they start to show any difficulties, that we can see them really early on, give consultation, support the system, support that young person. Sharon was talking about looking at the SDQs as part of the review health assessments. And again, I think that's really good to hear the children looked after nurses having those conversations with children about their mental health as well as their physical health. And I think, you know, the way forward is to make sure that those services are really joined up between physical health and mental health as well. And we do meet regularly with our colleagues in social care so that we're always kept abreast of any new situations or any particular pressures. So hopefully we're using the resource that we've got as efficiently as we can. And I hope that the data reassures you that we're doing that because we are seeing children looked after really early.
Thank you very much. But as I say, please don't be frightened to ask if you need stuff, because that's what we're here to do.
Councillor Cockshaw, please make it short. Yeah, please start.
Thank you, Chair. I'm picking up on one of the recommendations, 1.2, it says members are aware of key areas for improvement. I've read through the report. Obviously, it's a really good briefing to know about the service, but I don't see any comment or any dialogue just in the report around areas for improvement. So I may have misread it and I may have missed that, but just anything flagged?
I'm not aware of any areas for improvement, but if anybody has any other knowledge, I'm happy to.
Councillor Thurrock.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I've got exactly the same question. It says there on recommendations, exactly what George said, that members are aware of the key areas of recommendation for improvement. If there is none, it's not a recommendation, is it, surely? So.
Okay.
Looking at the form, I think that's where that's not been deleted off of the form.
All right, any other questions? We're going to move on now, please. Actually, I've got a question I was going to ask. You know, one of the reports says that suspension rate has increased among the children, about 17 suspended. Yeah, can you tell me, one of the reports says about the suspension rate has increased. Oh, that's your report. Oh, thank you. Yeah, please, can we move on to recommendations, please? That is a child and adolescent mental health service report for children looked after, October 2024, October 2025 is noted and reviewed by members. Agreed? Thank you. That members are aware of the key areas for improvement. Yeah, please, item 8. Independent Review Officer Annual Report. You can get that on pages 71 to 92 of the agenda. Can I ask Tendai to present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. It is widely accepted that the best place for children and young people is within their immediate or extended family network. However, where this is not always possible, children will, as a last resort, be brought into the care of the local authority. Therefore, it is important that when children come into care, we hold in mind the potential for reunification back to family so that care doesn't become the final destination for our children when they come into care. And this is where the role of the IRO does come in. The IRO's role is vital in ensuring that planning remains agile and responsive to family or child and young person changes within their circumstances or areas of need. This IRO report covers the period from 1st April 2024 to 31st March 2025. So I just wanted to make the timeline really clear. The role of the IRO is critical for every looked after child. An IRO must monitor a child or young person's case and ensure there is effective monitoring of their care plan in between the cycle of reviews. Reviews are 6 monthly unless there is a change in placement or something significant happens. Other responsibilities include promoting the voice of the child, giving appropriate weight to the child's wishes and feelings, where it's appropriate, and they act as a safeguard to prevent drift. So I've just picked a few essential roles that are played by the IRO, so this is not an exhaustive list. The IROs ensures a child's plan accurately reflects their needs. They're able to challenge a child's plan and raise any disagreements in terms of the planning and outcomes for young people. So a summary of the report and the highlights of the report are as follows. The IRO service has been stable throughout the period covered within the report. IROs are sufficiently experienced and can work with a level of autonomy, independence, and challenge in respect of children and young people's plans and outcomes. The benefit of having a stable IRO service is that they know their young people, they've established relationships with these young people, and they also understand the complexity of needs and what good outcomes for our children and young people look like. Caseloads have remained manageable within the IRO service, and CLA reviews are taking place within the required timescales. In 24-25 reporting period, we've had a total of 783 reviews that were undertaken within the IRO service, and that's really between 5 IROs. Children and young people are always encouraged to attend their looked after child reviews, and the meeting is always about them, and their participation at such meetings is voluntary. However, we always try and make sure where possible children are present, or that their views are captured in different ways. That could be through the school, could be through the foster carer, or anyone else who is significant to advocate for the child. We also work towards creative and flexible approaches to making sure young people's feedback is obtained and that this is captured within the CLA reviews. The IRO performance in completing reports post-CLA review remains high, usually 100%, and when this is not achieved, it's 98%. And issues that might impact the completion is not necessarily around the write-up, but the IT system, so some of those technical issues, and we work incredibly hard to make sure that timescales are met, because this is about capturing an accurate record on behalf of that child and young person. Our CLA numbers for the reporting period ranged between 267 and 287. Some of our young people have aged out, some have returned to family, some have ended up subject to adoption. 9 actually in this reporting period were adopted, which was an increase of 3 from the previous year. And 5.6% of children were supported under special guardianship arrangement, an increase of 0.8%. We also have children who can be supported under a child arrangement order, but this decreased by 3% because special guardianship order appears to be the more favored outcome in instances where we are within care proceedings. In terms of unaccompanied minors accommodated within this period, they reduced from 41 to 32 in this reporting period. The largest cohort of children in our care is the 10 to 15-year-old age bracket. And for the first time in 5 years, the number of children aged 1 to 4 has exceeded those aged 5 to 9. This is actually attributed to some of the younger children now moving up through the age bands. We have seen a decrease in the number of young people aged 16 and over in care. Most of these have aged out, and having explored some of this, the majority of our unaccompanied minors come in aged 16. We've had a reduction in the number of unaccompanied minors, and this is showing within our data as well. The ethnic breakdown of children in care comprises mainly those from white backgrounds. There is a higher proportion of children from Black and Black British backgrounds compared to our statistical neighbors and the national average. In Thurrock, the majority of children in care have been or are currently subject to legal proceedings. Legal orders afford the local authority legal powers to make decisions for a child alongside of the parent to support permanence. 68% of children supported under an order. We've had 68% of children in care supported under an order. 53 of those has been a care order, 15.6 under an interim care order. That's where we are still within the legal process and trying to determine the final outcome for those children. and 6.9% under a placement order. Those are children who've been identified as needing permanence through adoption. Now, children experiencing 3 or more moves has reduced by 5%. This shows a real commitment within the service in providing stability for children in care. However, the proposition of children placed 20 miles or more from home has increased by 29%. This is above the statistical neighbors and the national average. Now, when we look at children placed 20 miles or more, it's not always as simple as 20 miles. In some instances, we've placed children with extended family members, or some of our foster carers have actually moved outside of the local authority boundaries, but we still count that. There are several reasons, including safeguarding considerations, shortage of suitable placements, or placements with extended family, which may not always be within the borough. Any such arrangements that are 20 or more miles outside of the borough, or for children who've experienced 3 or more moves, are scrutinized by the IRO, and I'm having oversight of that as well, because we are working to make sure we have the stability of placement and care arrangements for our children in care. So overall, the role of the IRO is critical in safeguarding children's interests, assure the quality of the plan, and prevent any drift or delay in planning. The performance in 2024-25 has been strong, and the service remains aspirational for children in care. We can't do the work that we do without the role of the IROs keeping an eye. So effectively, they become the eyes and ears for us in understanding and really listening to the voices, wishes, and feelings of our children in care. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Tenda, for the presentation. Any questions, please? Councillor Speck.
Yeah, just a quick question. The report, obviously it's an annual report, but and it's looking back on a year that concluded on March the 31st. So with 10 months on, given that amount of time, it's a little bit of a concern that if this flagged up a problem, and I'm not suggesting I think it's a very good report, and I commend the work that you're doing and that Trevor's doing, you know, but I just think, is 10 months too long for this report to be brought back to us?
It's a conversation that Trevor and I have had. So next year, we are more than willing to bring the report early, but it may not have some of the data in relation to our statistical neighbors. So I think it's important for us to look at our current performance, because that's the context we are actually working towards, and we are still very strong in that area.
Yeah, I mean, we would be really happy to come and report more regularly to corporate parenting. But the data for the national stuff doesn't come out until November. So in order to give you the context of where we sit nationally, and this is the first opportunity we have. So I would more than happily come, obviously not every time, but you know, much earlier in the year, but you would have to accept that there wouldn't be the other data.
No, I enjoy it when you come, and I've got a question actually the last time. I mean, how are you getting on with social responsibility and getting firms to take on apprentices? And tell me privately. But yeah, no, thank you for that. As I say, it's just if there was a problem, I think, you know, and as I say, I don't think there is, but if there was, we might be told off for not looking at it sooner. So it's a bit of self-protectionism.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, so that's a fair point, and we do keep scrutinising stuff, and we do keep looking over stuff, and obviously Tendai keeps an eye on stuff as well. So if any issues arise, then we would address them as quickly as possible, and then we would obviously report to Tendai, who would share with Councillor Hartstein in the bi-monthly development board reports as well.
Yeah, Karen Tendai, please.
I think one of the considerations we could take into account is the potential for a report card. So we actually bring relevant data to corporate parenting, which allows you the opportunity to challenge us on our performance. So we could do that at every meeting.
And sorry, with indulgence, it's not just about holding people to account. It's exactly the same argument as I said to Tina earlier on. You know, you're 10 months on. 6 months ago, you might have thought, oh, God, if we had this or we had that, we could do a better job. Well, tell us then and not now.
Thank you, everyone. Any other questions? Or shall we move on to recommendations? Okay. Recommendations for the committee to review and comment on the IRO annual report 2024 to 2025 and the recommendation in the issue report. Do I agree? Thank you. We'll move on to item 9, annual report of virtual schools. You can find that on pages 93 to 164 of the agenda. And can I ask Keeley Pulling to present the report, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. So my report covers the academic year. We operate as a school does, so I'm covering the academic year 24 to 25. So 1st of September 24 to 31st of August 25. When we're looking at the attainment of our looked after children, attainment data doesn't come through until July or August, depending upon the age ranges. And in line with what Tendai was saying, we don't know anything about our statistical neighbours or the region until the very earliest in November. So the report will be covering the varied work that we do within the virtual school. We cover children who are looked after from ages 3 to 18. And we also oversee those that are previously looked after, those that might be in child arrangement situations. So that be covered under, for example, the previously looked after remit. And then from September 2021, the government has been allocating funds to cover children with a social worker as well, to promote their education. But our main statutory coverage is for those children looked after because we are their corporate parent. So I've gone through I'll just detail, hopefully you've read the report. It is a lengthy annual report as such because it forms the Annex A that we have to give to Ofsted, and also it's to enable you to scrutinise the service that we are providing. So in line with many of the reports that you've seen today, you'll note that my data in terms of contextual data of numbers of children in care, etc., that fluctuates over the course of the year. And the impact of that is it's really important that when a child or a young person enters care, that we very quickly get a hold on their current educational journey, what's happened to them and where are they now, and then to make appropriate plans alongside the care placement to make sure that there's minimal disruption to their education, or if there has to be disruption to their education, what can we do to make it the best for them. It's also important to note that when our children are transitioning, or our young people are transitioning from care, we work a lot on that with them as well, so giving them their next steps pathways. If they are of school age, we will, and they leave care, we will continue to maintain support in terms of information, advice and guidance, and in some cases we do still provide some financial support through the use of the Pupil Premium Plus, because that pupil has actually raised that amount of money through our social care census. I've detailed throughout the contextual information and the types of profile of what's happened across the course of the academic year. We have recently supported the special needs department, so when you look at the special needs profile of our children, The bit that won't be in the report is the fact that we've recently had another Ofsted with the special needs team, and they were able to look at the reports that I've provided and the data and the actions that the virtual school takes to support our children who do have special educational needs, and they were very happy with that. In fact, they didn't actually want to speak to me, so I don't know whether that was a blessing in disguise or not, but my team were really disappointed that we were waiting for them, but they didn't come. This year, for the first time since February 2022, so this academic year, we've now managed to get some dedicated educational psychologist time as well, which is proving to be really helpful. We do pay for that educational psychologist time from our virtual school budget, but now we've managed to get the post filled to have that support. You'll note from the data that the highest proportion for primary need for our special needs children is those with social, emotional and mental health. That ties in incredibly closely to the work that's happening with our colleagues to my left. And it really does fit the profile of children who are looked after across the country as well. That is their main category and area of need. By far the biggest challenge we've had in terms of children with special needs is when those who have an educational healthcare plan move out of borough. We're very reliant on the other local authorities to recognise their healthcare plan and to act upon it in a timely manner. I would say that between 60 to 70% of my caseworkers' work is based around children that have special educational needs, and that is averages between 46 to 49% of our given cohort at any one time. So that, as I said, that's been a challenge, and we are really waiting for some further guidance from government on that, and some things, some glimmers of light are coming through. So hopefully we'll be able to have more clarity in terms of who's responsible for the care plan and who's responsible for funding the care plan. However, please be reassured that the virtual school does not allow that drift, and we do everything that we can to prevent it. If there is drift, so if, for example, if a young person doesn't have education and they're placed in Walsall, for example, and Walsall Special Needs Department haven't picked them up yet, we start their tuition so that they're not missing education, and that comes from our budget. So in terms of what do we need in terms of budget, it's very important that any of those government-funded grants that come through to social care to do with education do come through to the virtual school, as they have done in previous years. I'm glad you picked up, I'm probably going to preempt your question in terms of suspensions. So the number of suspensions in terms of how many days or half days our young people have had off has increased. You'll note that in the actual report. But the number of pupils that have had suspensions has decreased. So statistically, against national figures, we are below that. And only 17, I say only, I don't want any of my children to have a suspension, but only 17 children were suspended in that academic year. And you'll note there is a case study in my report that explains one of those scenarios that we had where we actually moved that young person school, and touch wood, 0 suspensions from that young person since he moved school. So it's all about having those good relationships with our young people, understanding their trauma and their needs. I won't go on too long because I'm aware that I'm the last person on. So the fact that we have had a reduction of our numbers of pupils being suspended would indicate that we are identifying those that are at risk a little bit earlier. We do have regular meetings as a team to highlight them and try to get into the school proactively. If we can see it's bubbling, we try and get in a little bit sooner before they actually make the suspension. I'm going to flip to attainment now. Thurrock looked after children continue to do better than the national looked after children and our eastern region. Statistical Neighbours wasn't available at the time of writing this report. And we are starting to close the gap against all Thurrock children. Our post-pandemic data is showing improvements compared to pre-pandemic. So when we think about the amount of days lost of school, the amount of upheaval that we've had in terms of education, we are starting to see those glimmers of the intervention that we're putting in and the added intervention from the government as well that we received historically to put, for example, extra tuition to try and close those gaps. And I'll stop now if that's okay, because I could go on all night. But I'll stop and welcome questions, or I'll expand on anything if anybody wishes.
Thank you, Kelly, for the report. Councillor Spade.
Yeah, just a very quick one. You mentioned that occasionally you get difficulties if children move away or out of borough and whatever. Now, I don't. There'll be different reasons for every single one. But do you feel the appropriate, I'm trying to choose my words really carefully, levels of support in terms of housing need and weighting that's given to people? Because it may well be that the housing department, which has got an almost impossible job, is having to evaluate need for housing and whatever. Does that need, in terms of schooling, because of the special needs for the schooling, is that given weight? And if not, do you think it would be beneficial that at least the message got across to the other silo that, cut us a bit of slack here?
The issue we have is if our children who are in care have moved, so if they've moved to another borough, it's most likely been a planned move. A lot of the work we've been doing in this last term of this academic year has involved children that have had planned moves with foster carers that are moving home, and everyone's put lots of things in place, but we've still had to wait for that other borough because they won't acknowledge that child until they're physically in the house. So although we have specific timescales that everyone should be adhering to, not everyone does, unfortunately.
Sorry, yeah, I mean, I was looking at a very thin end of a stick, so, and that, you give me some assurance there. And just to say, well done. I mean, your key attainments are some fantastic figures. Well done.
Oh, thank you. Councillor Goksha, please.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for the report. I think it's always quite refreshing to see some of the things that the virtual school is up to, and echo the words of Councillor Spate, really, in terms of their attainment and the outcomes we do achieve for our children in care. I think just picking up on one of the things that you mentioned that around the strengths for next year and where we want to look at, particularly in terms of need and children in care and needs. And I appreciate this is a national problem, that there is a huge increase in of people not in education, training or work. And I'm just thinking, I appreciate there is steps every bi-weekly meetings and check-ins with children in care, but what is the steps really then to strengthen those pathways for our post-16?
The main area that we have to work on is that engagement. So having that confidence, having that will to make a change, and to have the strength of the relationships with the virtual school worker, but also with their personal assistant and their social worker, to then get their confidence to say, actually, yeah, we will take part in that activity that you're providing, or we will do that. Our NEET figures changed. It's not always the same young people. There are some entrenched cases for sure, but then there are some that might start a course and then not enjoy their course, so they'll withdraw, but then they'll miss the enrolment, so they'll have to wait. So it's about what can we do as a virtual school to keep hold of them and to keep that willingness and that want to do something, as a stopgap before we can get them something that perhaps more recognised. Is that okay, that answer?
Yeah, no, thank you. I used to do school enrolments, and sometimes I appreciate that is that is an issue of that stopgap. And I think in terms of being interesting to see where we are next year, I think where we keep that engagement up, and I think it's really important that we do, because the opportunities you get in the outcome of work, education and training, it's that we need to make sure there is pathways for our children in care.
Want to respond to that, please? Yeah.
Yes, I was just going to support what Keely has said. We've also got the Inspire Hub. So there's a lot of work that's taking place there in terms of being creative and understanding the needs of our young people, so that we're not just trying to shoe them on, to kind of put them in how can I put it? We need to have a range of options for our young people. Not all of them can do office jobs. You know, a number of young people have said, because we've got mental health issues, working out, you know, either in parks and other places would actually be better for them. So we're formulating some of those options for young people and thinking about how we engage with our foster carers, with our residential homes and semi-independent provisions, so that we have carers who are proactively signed into the work that we're trying to do for young people.
Councillor Sisterson, please.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for that question and answer, because obviously it is a difficult phase in a young person's life, isn't it, that transition? But I just wanted to draw attention to like the really good figures you've got for the year one pupils, and they're practically national level, aren't they? You got 78% in Thurrock of the looked after children, and the Thurrock looked after at 82%. So that, you know, there's not much difference there at all. So, you know, I think that's optimistic going forward. You know, it's important to get that good start.
Yes, it's great for those children. We're only looking at a very small number of children that were in that cohort, but it is good because they won't have to resit that test again in year 2, and theoretically it should enable them to meet expected, certainly in the area of reading, when they take their Key Stage 1 SATs. But we do put a lot of resources from nursery age to support the phonics, so that they're starting to get them age 3 and 4 years old, so that we can get that type of language and that them being able to decode and listen and those kinds of things, so that when they are sitting that test, it's not as alien to them. So we provide the foster carers with resources, but we also provide the children themselves with some resources. But that particular cohort does have quite a fluctuation, because they might move in and out of care quite a lot in that age range. So it's very difficult to get your 12 plus months in that age range as well.
Yeah, because obviously a lot at that age, particularly in a school classroom, a lot of the variation will depend on the input they've had from home. So, it just goes to show that they are getting excellent input from the foster carers and from your service. So I do think that's encouraging.
Thank you for that. Can I say that I saw the report, the testimonies from the children about the great work people are doing. And can I say well done to the team? Yeah, well done. Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, Councillor Thurrock, please.
Thank you. Yeah, 3. All positives. Languages, 14 in the cohort overview, in the second page of the report, languages 14 spoken across the cohort. I don't think generally people realise that there's so many languages that you deal with, and thank you for that. Sorry, I'm the wrong person inside. Thank you for that. That's obviously a positive that you're dealing with 14 languages. I'm skipping right across here now. All unaccompanied asylum-seeking children have been supported by the virtual school to access educational experiences prior to starting post-16 college placements. All of them. That's brilliant again. Thank you. And as the chair just said, one of the things I picked out, page 64 of the report, I won't read it out, it's on page 162. Hi Gemma, she explains a situation she'd been in with her child, a young person, sorry, and she's just saying thank you for everything you do. And your whole team, I think, is brilliant for what you do. So thank you right across the board for everything you do. Just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Horrocks. Councillor Arnold, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Keeley. It's just really a comment again, actually. It's actually kind of a bit of a joy actually coming back to this committee. And I do actually remember having a meeting with you a couple of years ago when I did the rounds speaking to lots of different officers, and yours was particularly detailed and particularly lengthy. And I do remember afterwards Janet said to me, watch out with Keeley because she really is very passionate and she can... You know, you need to kind of keep a grip on her report times, but it's absolutely fantastic, and it absolutely shines through. And just what I would like to say is, you know, all of you guys over there, it really is a joy, this committee, because I don't think you get it with any others. You know, you can see that you're all dedicated and you all are passionate about your roles. And I mean, I just really wanted to say that again. I do remember saying that a couple of years ago, and you know, it's still there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Arnold. Can we move to recommendations? Oh, one more, Councillor Spade, please.
Yeah, it is actually in relation to the recommendation, actually, Chair. I'm a little bit, it flashes off my screen then, just I'm about to read it. I'm a little bit, I think it's very wordy, and I think some of the wording is obtuse. If we were noting it, I could say the point of the wording as it is, but we're not noting it, we're making a recommendation. And I just think the bit at the end about, and uses this information to evaluate, scrutinise, and if appropriate, challenge the services that are provided. Well, we've done that, and that's part and parcel of what we do. So I'm not sure it's necessary. But what I would also like in there, as it is a recommendation, is that the committee congratulates the virtual school on the progress and attainment that it's made. And words are cheap, but I think just putting that word in a recommendation, even if you keep the rest of it, I'd really like that.
You support that, yeah? Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, congratulations to the virtual team. Okay, agreed on the recommendations, right? Yes. Thank you. Sorry. Item 10, work program. You can actually find that on pages 165 to 166 of the agenda. Yeah, you can read it on your own. Yeah. Do we have any other questions, amendments from members, please? All right. Thank you. And we're going to be closing now. Just want to thank you, councillors, thank you, officers, for attending meetings. And right now, the meeting is closing at 5 minutes to 9. Yeah. Thank you all.